Hey YouTube, Drillboy here. So today I have a fascinating topic to discuss with y'all, and that is really, in essence, how strong is Luffy right now? And so while this might seem like a simple topic right now, I actually think that it's a lot more convoluted than a lot of people give credit for. But to start off this video, I want to bring up a major point, which is that sometime in the very near future, and I mean very near future, Luffy will have to take on a Yonko and at least be on par with that Yonko. It's been highly speculated that Kaido will be present during the Wano arc, and while there's reasons to believe this and some reasons that kind of go against it as well, I think that my personal belief is that Kaido will be there during the Wano arc. And so, with that being said, then all the Straw Hats currently, except for the crew that went to Whole Cake Island, is heading towards Wano right now. So immediately after Whole Cake Island should be the Wano arc, and therefore should be the scenario in which Luffy takes on Kaido. And so we recently saw that Luffy took on Doflamingo, and while he was probably a lot stronger than Doflamingo while in Gear 4th, the limitations of Gear 4th basically made that fight into Doflamingo being the equal to Luffy. In fact, had it not been for Trafalgar Law and then the residents of Dressrosa, Doflamingo very well could have beaten Luffy. And so, jumping from Doflamingo all the way up to Kaido would sort of give us the impression that Luffy right now needs a huge power-up in order to compete with Kaido. But I will say this, Gear 4th is overwhelmingly powerful. Even though Luffy was weaker than Doflamingo without Gear 4th, when he entered Gear 4th, which only lasted for a few minutes, the power level difference between Doflamingo and Luffy was immense. Doflamingo literally stood zero chance whatsoever against Luffy while he was in Gear 4th. But the problem being is that he couldn't stay in that form forever, and then once the form wears off, then he loses his haki for an extended period of time, which makes him open to getting defeated if he doesn't finish off his opponent in Gear 4th. And so while I think that Luffy will slowly perfect Gear 4th, the duration in which he can be in Gear 4th and the duration in which after he's finished the form that he won't have haki will also be reduced, I don't think this alone could improve to the point that Luffy could take on Kaido, a man who we're led to believe really can't take any damage and has a huge amount of endurance. So in essence, Kaido is just too strong for Luffy, and his skill set directly counters the advantages Gear 4th gives. So while Luffy can get stronger in Gear 4th, potentially be able to damage Kaido, if Doflamingo can survive the onslaught of Gear 4th, and then survive long enough to the finish of Gear 4th when Luffy loses haki, then Kaido most certainly can. However, the fight between Luffy and Kaido is looming. It's going to happen. This is One Piece and the main character is Luffy. And so he has to, at least in some way, be a part of the defeat of Kaido just based on what we know about Kaido and how the story is progressing. And so the question is then how is Luffy going to beat Kaido? And so I and others have theorized that it's going to be a tag team effort versus Kaido. You already have many strong fighters that are heading towards Wano, including the Supernova, Law, and Captain Kid, as well as Luffy. You have Marco, and the samurai led by Kinemon, and the other samurai there that are in allegiance with him. The Minks as well. There's going to be a lot of players in this fight, and so it's possible that the Straw Hats win all the way leading up to Kaido, and then you have sort of a tag team effort to try and take on Kaido. And so with this being said, it's possible that each one of the, whoever is participating in this battle could go all out and then give time for perhaps Luffy to enter Gear 4th, actually do some damage versus Kaido, and then have his haki run out, but then be protected because someone else will then take his place to fight Kaido, then he'll get it back and then he'll try again. This is a possibility, but I don't really see it happening like that. What I would honestly prefer is that Luffy is a lot stronger than we give him credit for right now, and that he has tricks that he's saved that he didn't use in the fight versus Doflamingo up his sleeve. As a lot of people have pointed out, it's really interesting that Gear 4th has a specific name outside of just being Gear 4th. For all the other gears, Gear 2nd and Gear 3rd, there was no name attached to those gears, they were just named as the number. But in the case of Gear 4th, its actual name is Bound Man. And so what this opens up as far as possibilities is that there's multiple different forms of Gear 4th. And I honestly think it would be silly for Luffy to have named this version of Gear 4th Bound Man without already knowing how to use other different forms of Gear 4th. This is like saying that Gear 2nd, there would be multiple different forms of Gear 2nd, but that Luffy named it Gear 2nd something specific, and then 500 chapters later, it's revealed that he discovered a new way of using Gear 2nd. And that's the reason why he gave Gear 2nd a different name in the first place. It doesn't really make sense. In order to have a specific name for Gear 4th would imply that he already knows other forms of Gear 4th already, which is why he specifically named it. And so a lot of people would probably argue at this point, well, if Luffy had any other tricks up his sleeve, any more powerful techniques, then why didn't he use it versus Doflamingo? And my simple answer to this is that he didn't need to. Bound Man was overwhelmingly stronger than Doflamingo, and I think it's safe to assume that Luffy thought that he would beat Doflamingo with Bound Man alone. And then when Doflamingo ended up surviving the initial onslaught of Bound Man, then when Luffy fought him again, he already knew that Bound Man was incredibly stronger than Doflamingo, and that he wouldn't need to use any other technique other than Bound Man to finish him off. So with this being said, it's highly possible that Luffy has, in addition to Bound Man, an even stronger technique already ready to go. Throughout the story of One Piece, Luffy has a tendency of using just the right amount of power in order to defeat his opponents. This is more likely than not has reasons to do with the plot, but as far as Luffy is concerned, he doesn't like to completely demolish his opponents if he doesn't have to. He likes to test them out and then drag on fights to better assess what his opponents are capable of. This might also have something to do with the downsides of each of his major forms, which is that all of them have huge weaknesses and oftentimes are dangerous to his health to use. So it doesn't make a lot of sense for Luffy to go ahead and automatically use Gear 4th in a situation that doesn't require it, and the same would apply to all the other forms as well throughout the course of the One Piece story. If Luffy can defeat someone without using any of his techniques whatsoever, I think Luffy would choose to do that. And so with this being said, I think that it's highly likely that if Luffy has another form that he could potentially use that's even stronger than Bound Man, this form would also have a huge downside as well. What this downside could be, I really don't have any good idea, but I do think that it's because of this that if Luffy already has a technique that is stronger than Bound Man, he didn't use it during the fight versus Doflamingo. Basically, Luffy knew that Bound Man would be enough to take on Doflamingo, so he didn't need to use his stronger technique, which has an even worse downside. So yeah guys, I see a lot of people sort of uncertain about how Luffy is actually going to take on the Yonko at this point in the story given the powers that he has revealed and the fights that we've seen so far in the New World. And so this is my best answer to possibly explain how Luffy could be a lot stronger than a lot of the One Piece community really gives him credit for. There are absolute legit reasons to believe that Luffy hasn't revealed all of his cards yet. And so with this being said, these unrevealed cards could play huge roles in better understanding where Luffy stacks up with the Yonko right now. So yeah guys, let me know what you think. Let me know if you think Luffy has more cards that he hasn't revealed already at his disposal that he just didn't use versus Doflamingo, or if that he at some point he will actually obtain new powers that will help him compete with Kaido, or perhaps both of these things at the same exact time. Let me know if you think that Luffy's technique that is unrevealed, if it has a downside, if you agree with me and think that it's probably worse than Bound Man in the loss of Haki, perhaps even something as serious as a legit loss of lifespan, similar to the explanation for why he didn't want to use Gear 2nd back pre-time skip. If you enjoyed anything that I said in this video, please give it a like and subscribe if you want to be notified for my future videos. And as always, dudes, have a wonderful day.